Hey everyone, and welcome back to Guy Aitchison's Reinventing the Tattoo Community, where tattooers, apprentices, collectors, and the curious are encouraged to join in these live streams, real world events, share and inspire, and ultimately create better art and tattoos together. We beam out nearly every day, and with your help, have evolved into a quality network of amazing live and on demand tattoo and art shows that have all been receiving rave reviews. You're currently watching the Sunday afternoon drawing group with me, Jason Leeser, which is held every Sunday at 1 p.m. Artists, feel free to zoom in by going to the event listed in the Reinventing the Tattoo community and clicking on the zoom in button. You might be beaming in from YouTube or Facebook. Maybe you're listening to the podcast, but you can always get the latest event schedule and notifications at the official Reinventing the Tattoo community, found at both the app stores, the Apple App Store and Google Play Store, or directly at community.reinventingthetattoo.com. This is working for you. Please let us know in the comments and chats. Also, please feel free to tag a friend who loves tattoos. We're always trying to get more people involved, and we're always trying to, gather a bigger audience. All Reinventing the Tattoo Network shows, art jams, drawing groups, interviews, panels, webinars, seriously, all of it can be enjoyed on demand and found in the library as well as the YouTube and podcast channels. There are countless tattoo and art rabbit holes for you to dive into. It's perfect for the front room of your studio or to entertain your tattoo clients as they're getting worked on. In fact, we're beaming out 4 different channels 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can find all of that live at reinventing247.com. Also at reinventing247.com, you can enter to win a Reinventing the Tattoo goodie bag, which has all different types of samples from raw pigments and Cheyenne cartridges. Some have t-shirts. I don't know. I think we still have some t-shirts left at least. But yeah, go there, enter to win the goodie bag. It's free stuff. All you got to do is enter your name and like address, email. Why not, right? We do have some weekly staple shows that we always encourage different community members to attend, starting on Sundays with the 1 p.m. drawing group with me, Jason Leeser. Directly followed at 9 p.m. by the Tattoo Weekly with Gabe Ripley, Lauren Gregory, and Jake Meeks from the Fireside Tattoo Network. On Mondays at 9 a.m., we have the Early Bird Drawing Group with Kier, where she goes through and, much like myself, works on different drawings, works on homework, starts prepping for the week. It's a good way to go through and interact with other artists and really start your week off right. At Mondays at 9 p.m., we have the subscribers exclusive exercise with Guy Aitchison himself. We always encourage people to subscribe to Reinventing the Tattoo. Not only do you get full access to the canon itself, some of you might have read Reinventing the Tattoo back in the day. Well, this is like completely different now. It's amazing. They've updated everything. It's got all types of new stuff in it. It's like a completely new book. It's amazing. But one of the added benefits to that is that you get to go through and work on different drawings live with Guy every Monday night. How awesome is that, right? And that takes place every Monday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Tuesday mornings, we have the 10 a.m. drawing group with a very good friend of mine, Ricardo Sertivant. Amazing painter, amazing tattooer, extremely intelligent guy. Definitely, you don't want to miss that. Wednesdays at noon, we have the Tattoo Now show with Gabe Ripley. Thursdays at 10 a.m., we have subscribers exclusive fundamental drawing group with Kier. All skill levels, including apprentices, are always welcome to attend. Kier usually goes through and covers a lot of the fundamentals of shading, value, light form, color theory. Don't get her started on color theory. She will talk your ear off about it. It's amazing. So she starts to go back through and touch on some of those basics that we all started to learn. And then, obviously we all get busy tattooing. So it's good for us to revisit those every now and then. Thursdays at 12 noon, we have the Tattoo Collecting Podcast with Fawn Baker. Absolutely awesome. She gets people from all over to jump in and share some of their tattoo stories. We have, let's see, a number of real world events coming up. We have November 12th through 14th, the Brussels Tattoo Convention with Nick Baxter, Ivana, and Gabe, who will all be doing seminars. We're encouraging everyone to beam in. They're going to be doing some live art jams, some subscriber exclusive meetups, as well as some other general meetups as well. Definitely not going to be something you want to miss. February 5th through 6th, Reinventing the Tattoo will be live from the Red Tree Gallery and True Tube's headquarters in Columbus, Ohio, where we will be doing an art jam, seminars. There's a lot more information on the way, so please stay tuned. April 11th through 14th, we have the New Hampshire Inspiring Tours with Sean Barber and Nick Baxter, who will both be hosting a collaborative painting seminar. Very limited spots. If you're interested, please email management@reinventingthetattoo.com. May 20th through 22nd, we have Health City, Columbus, Ohio, which is always one of the premier tattoo conventions in the country. July 8th through 10th, 2022, we have the Rock River Tattoo Art Expo with a ton of Reinventing the Track artists, Reinventing the Tattoo Track artists. Sorry, a little bit of a tongue twister there. It's at an amazing venue and it's super easy to get to from anywhere. July 29th through 31st, we have the Rubber City Tattoo Invitational in Akron, Ohio with Tony Urbanek. Highly recommend going to that. If any of you know Tony, you know that he is a master machine builder and an extremely, extremely awesome dude. So would like to take a minute to thank some of our sponsors. Inkjet Stencils. You can print with an inkjet stencil printer. You can actually print straight from your phone, your tablet, your laptop, and you can get photo quality tattoo stencils. I've used these before and they're absolutely amazing. You cannot go wrong with them. If you are really trying to step your game up, say you're really trying to get into photorealism, right? And rather than drawing it all out by hand and maybe having it off by just a fraction of a hair of an inch, these will allow you to get 100% perfectly accurate photos stenciled onto the skin. You've got to give it a shot. Would like to thank Interstate Ink LA. Many of you may know Church from his awesome custom sneakers. His studio is seeking residents and guests, all clean and sober. If you are an artist in recovery looking for a supporting studio, or you know someone that needs one, please reach out on Instagram to @Interstate Ink LA. Would like to thank Raw Pigments, which can be found at rawpigments.co, an ink company that is tapping into the source. I've started to incorporate a lot of them into my lineup, and they are amazing. WorldTattooEvents.com, largest, most comprehensive source for tattoo events worldwide. Lots of updating as conventions are getting rescheduled like crazy. So yeah, definitely want to keep up to date on that. DLize Pro, also known as Dermalize Pro throughout the rest of the world. Protect your art. If you're still using saran wrap, it's time to step your game up. Feel free to watch some videos of tattooers to see what it's all about. TattooNow.com, technology for tattooers. The leading edge in SEO and professional development for tattooers of all skill levels. And they're now accepting new clients, so you may want to jump in on that pretty quickly. Yeah, I'd get in on it soon. And of course, a very big special thank you to the founder and inspiration behind Reinventing the Tattoo, Guy Aitchison. Go to guyaitchison.com. You can pick up his Biomech encyclopedia, his DVDs. He's got some custom tattoo machines for sale, some paintings, and countless other stuff. You can never go wrong. He's literally been at the forefront of tattoo education for, well, Lord knows how long, 20 years. So special thank you to him. Would also like to reach out and say thank you to Larry, Kier, Ricardo, and Bruno. Without you guys, I don't know if I would be here like doing this kind of stuff right now. So I can't thank you enough for everything that you've been doing. Yeah, would also like to take a minute to thank some of our affiliates, the Fireside Tattoo Network with Jake Meeks. Amazing content on there. If you don't know about Fireside, you need to go and take a look. And the Apprenticeship Diaries with Amy Nichols. I got the chance to hang out with Amy at the Paradise BYOB this past October, and it was absolutely mind-blowing. Definitely, if you are an apprentice or an apprentice hopeful and you're looking to do it the right way, and you're looking for that solid advice that's really going to set you down the right path, go to the Apprenticeship Diaries, start listening. They have got more useful information than you can ever imagine. So that kind of gets through the intro. It's nice to be back, everyone. Spent the past couple of weekends up at the Paradise Gathering. I got to hang out with Ricardo Sertivant, for a while, who actually joined me in the Zoom. Hey, Ricardo.
What's up, Jason? How's it going, man?
Hi, buddy.
How are you today?
He's my friend.
I am
He's
indeed.
My friend.
I'm lucky to be your friend, dude, for sure. I'm happy to be here.
We're friends. In case anyone was wondering, we're friends.
Sometimes.
He admitted it. It's true now.
Sometimes, but all the time, we're friends. Yeah.
Yeah, but I've been doing a lot of convention coverage, man, and I've been going and I've been looking at a lot of different places, and I've started to notice some interesting things going on with tattoo conventions, man.
Oh yeah, what's up?
So I've started to notice that a lot of people, like a lot of artists, are trying to pre-book a lot of clientele and book up a lot of appointments in advance of them even showing up to do the show. I've even heard of a few artists who need not be named that have actually decided to cancel working at shows because they've signed up for them and they've paid for the booth and they've been on the list, but they didn't get anyone lined up in time, so they just decided not to go. And it's, I kind of understand that because, you're putting out a lot of money. It's an investment. You want to go through and make some of that back on return, right? Mm-hmm. I get that. But if you're going to go through and book appointments all the time for these shows, wouldn't it make more sense just to find a studio out there and go and do a guest spot?
Yeah, it seems that would be the best way to do it. Yeah. I know the conventions have changed quite a bit since I first started doing them too. Like when I first started doing them, I think MySpace was just starting to take off. You know what I mean? So
don't admit that, dude. You just admitted that online. That's dating.
It's all good. It's all good.
Man.
I'm okay with it. I am that old, yes. And then like, but no, man. Yeah, I agree with you. I think it probably would be best to just go to the shop. You know what I mean? That way conventions are fun, but there's something about if you can at least book at maybe just one appointment. You know what I mean? If you could just book at least one, then it'd be worthwhile. Just the random walk-ups and stuff like that, dude, they're great. I like the idea of being able to put out your own art on the table and say, hey, man, I'm going to be here for the weekend. This is the stuff I'd like to do. Come on by and let's talk about this and see what we can work out, as far as the price and everything like that goes. But to the point of what you're saying, man, I think if you're looking to stay consistently busy, then definitely go to the shop. But, if you want to like hang out and get to meet people and it be just very fluid and random and stuff and in the moment, then definitely do the convention. It's just one of those things, you know what I mean? You roll the dice, you know what I mean? You have to say hello to people. You can't just sit back and like just let it happen. You know what I mean? You have to, hey, how's it going? When people are looking at your stuff, you have to say hello to them. You have to talk to them, ask them where they're from. And it's cool to just be able to get to meet people that way even, so it is the investment though, for sure. I'll definitely say that. Like I traveled and did quite a few conventions this year and, they were fun. They were a blast, a lot of like learning moments and stuff in them in several different ways. So, but that's interesting that you've been noticing that because I wouldn't have never thought to do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I've worked at several conventions over the past, I don't know, decade or so. And every time I work at a show, I always pick up one or two little tidbits that I think just really can help make a difference. Right. For example, like if you go to work any of the Villain Arts shows, Villain Arts is very, very good about creating a specific Facebook page just for that convention. Right. They'll go through and they actually have it set up so that if someone's looking to get a tattoo done, all of the artists that go through and check out the Facebook page can go through and kind of scroll through and see, okay, who's looking to get something to, okay, cool. This guy wants a Japanese koi fish half sleeve.
Yeah.
Cool. Let me go through and I'll reply to him and I'll reach out to him and see if, he's interested in booking an appointment for the show because I'll be in town and I love to do that kind of stuff. Right. They're very good about that. And it's something that I would love to start seeing more with like smaller shows, like Gettysburg, we went to work at this year. And that was a awesome. Great time.
Yeah.
But I think being where we were in the convention hall, and I think being kind of set up the way that we were, it wasn't the best as far as like recouping the money that we put out for it.
Right.
I think if we had some way to go through and, reach out to potential clients ahead of time, I think that would have been a much better idea, or just having that venue, that avenue to travel down, where we can go through and people can post up stuff that they might want to get done.
Yeah.
And say, hey, here's what I want. Who wants to do this? Or who wants to do something like this?
All right.
I'd love to start seeing that more like smaller shows.
Yeah.
But I understand that takes a lot of time in the back end to set everything up, make sure everything's run correctly, have it moderated so that people don't go through there and, start acting a fool. So
there's a lot of legwork. By the producers of the show, and that includes booking the venue and stuff like that, making sure everything's cool with the venue. I can only imagine how hard it is now with all the COVID stuff, dude. It's probably even more anxiety ridden. You know what I mean? Than normal as far as trying to stay on task and stay on a target and accomplishing a goal. You know what I mean? But yeah, dude, there's a lot of ins and outs to it. But the thing with Gettysburg was awesome. I love that small of a show. The venue is cool. You know what I mean? We got to talk to just about everybody there. You know what I mean? Everybody was pretty laid back and into the same spirit of things. Like, let's hang out. This COVID thing is looking like it might be, tapering off, but we're not sure. But still, like, we're happy to be around each other again. It was all really good vibes. You know what I mean? The one thing I will say about some of the bigger shows, though, like the Philly one that we did, and the money that goes into it. For the people that are watching and they're concerned about that being an issue, it is a very real issue. Believe me, I get it. But what you can get in return, as far as the people you can meet, the questions you can ask to some of these tattoo artists, you know what I mean? Victor Portugal was there at that convention, dude. He was so busy tattooing, I didn't get a chance to talk to him, you know what I mean? But I watched him work. That was incredible. You know what I mean? And that guy's work is phenomenal, dude. You know what I mean? And there's a lot of other people that I met. We met Megan in the lobby that one day, you know what I mean? And then the other people that I met too, like your friend Pat, dude. Pat's an awesome guy. Hanging out with you and Kier, it's great, man. It was just cool thing. But when you're considering the fact that you're not going to be making money, it's one of those realities. But, there's a lot of things you can kind of do to recoup it in another way too. Like, as far as your taxes go, that's a very write-off kind of thing where you didn't make any money, but you spent all this money on travels. You don't have to pay as much back in taxes because of stuff like that. You know what I mean? And that's great. That's one of the cool things about being able to be your own entrepreneur, like your own business manager, your own owner. You know what I mean? So there's some things to take into consideration. It's like a write a list or the positive, negative kind of things, And I think at the end of the day, man, you might spend a little bit more money than what you want to. You might not get it back, but it's all worth it. It's all worth it.
Every time I think of working at a show, I always go back to a principle that, my father taught me when it comes down to finances and going to work these events and things like that. I remember early in my career, I sat down, my dad's like a financial, like genius, man. I swear he's one of the smartest people on the face of the earth. But then
That's
again,
fucked.
most people probably think that about their dad. So, but I remember sitting down talking to him financially about like, okay, how, I'm having problems with like, I'm working at these shows and I'm trying to get more walk-ups and build a clientele base. I'm trying to do everything the right way, handing out business cards, going around meeting people, being social. And you know me, I'm not exactly like, unless I'm in a forced social gathering, like I tend to keep to myself a lot. Like I don't really go out of my way too much. So like I was really putting myself out there, but every single year I worked it, and especially a show the size of Philly, which is huge,
Gigantic.
it's hard to not make any money at that, right? It's hard to not make anything because there's such a volume of people, right? And I was talking about, I lowered my rates, I did this, I was trying to do that, I was trying to bring people in, the whole line. And he turned around and he said, okay, and I get it, you enjoy going to these, and I know you enjoy working at them, and I know you enjoy all this other stuff. And he said, but at the end of the day, you have the studio at home, which is your bread and butter.
Yeah.
And then you have this other opportunity, which is kind of a variable. You have your constant and your variable.
Yeah.
Never take on the variable unless you can afford to take the loss.
That's the same thing I say about running the shop. You know what I mean? Like your business is like, if you have other people working with you or for you in some capacity, as long as you can afford it yourself, then there's no loss. You know what I mean? Like you can still take care of all the bills. Like I think that's what he's saying too. And that's a great way to look at it, man. Yeah. You have to kind of give and take kind of thing, right?
I learned that lesson the real hard way when I went to work at the Dublin Tattoo Convention one year. First time ever working an international show. I knew I was going to be a small fish in a big pond. Didn't know what anyone wanted in that kind of an area. So I was just kind of like, all right, well, I'm going to see how it goes. Right. And I gathered up probably 150 different pre-drawn designs to bring with me. Right.
Wow. Yeah.
Thinking, okay, I'll spread these out. I got the whole booth to myself. I mean, booths were pretty cheap, so I mean, it wasn't that big of a deal. But I was like, all right, cool. I'm going to spread out all of these designs, my stickers, business cards, had everything like mentally prepped and ready to go. I'm like, if I don't do at least 5 tattoos while I'm here, I'm not doing something right. Right.
Yeah.
And I had probably 150 designs out on the table that people could kind of pick from, right? And that's all I was really trying to stick to, unless someone had something maybe they wanted reworked or whatever. Fine, cool, whatever. I'm here on vacation and, I'm trying to make a little bit of money back. So yeah, if you need something touched up, I didn't do it originally, fine, whatever, I'll do it. And I did that the first day. I did that and one other small tattoo. I think I charged 80 euros for it. And that's on stuff. I didn't do anything else. It was a massive and total loss for me. Because not only did I spend the money on the flight, which any of you out there that travel for tattoo conventions internationally know that that's not exactly cheap, especially if you're bringing a massage table. If you're bringing a Pelican case with all of your stuff in it, even boiled down to like the bare bones minimum, right? I bought gloves at the convention. I bought plastic wrap at the convention. I bought razors at the convention. I bought all of this disposable stuff while there just to cut down on weight, but I still ended up packing a full Pelican case filled with stuff.
You almost have to, yeah.
Right? So the Pelican case is a checked bag. The massage table is a checked bag. So that's, an extra cost right there. Plus you have the flight itself. Plus you have to pay for those checked bags on the way back. So it's really expensive to go and work somewhere internationally unless you're planning on being in that area for a while, right? Like if I was going to start hopscotching around Europe, working at, okay, I'll go to Dublin and then I'll go over here to Manchester and then I'll fly down to Barcelona, and then I'll jump over to Milan, then I'll drive back up to Marseille, and then from Marseille I'll go to Geneva. Unless I'm like jumping around a lot of places that are pretty local over there, flying internationally with that many checked bags is very expensive.
Oh yeah.
So not just that, but hotel stay and all that stuff.
Food.
I had never stayed over there to work a show. I had never even been to Dublin before. So I didn't really know where to go or what to do. So for me, it was a huge and total loss. And then they tried to make me pay taxes on it as well. And because I didn't file taxes with the EU, by the time their taxes were due, which I had no idea when that was. They tried to make me pay 500 euros in taxes just for suspected income because I didn't claim any income. Right?
Yikes. What?
Yeah. Yeah. I think I still have one of the letters from the Dublin branch of their IRS, their like tax revenue service, basically saying like, hey, you owe us 500 euros. And I was like, no, I don't. What are you talking about? Like, I literally made enough money to buy like 2 meals.
Yeah.
Okay. How do I owe you money on that?
Mm-hmm.
I literally worked there for 3 days. Most of that I didn't work. I was just sitting at the booth waiting for people to come by.
Yeah.
A lot of that I chalk up to not knowing the clientele base and what was popular in that area at that time.
Or just, so sometimes it's just the way the cookie crumbles, man. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like you can
Right.
have all the right stuff there. You can have everything you need. You can have everything that you planned on taking with you. You don't forget a single thing, and then you still don't work, dude. Like it's just the way it goes sometimes. You know what I mean? That's the other part of it too, is like you have to take that in consideration. It doesn't always go to plan, man. You know
True.
what I mean? Like, and sometimes it's just all there is to it. But it is good, like you're saying, dude, to try and be prepared, because it helps at least with that mental capacity as far as like when you're there, like you're gonna be beating yourself up the whole fucking time. You know what I mean? So to speak.
We got Akshay that joined us. What's up, Akshay? Welcome back.
Hello, sir. What's up?
Akshay.
How's it going, man? Long time no see. You've been keeping busy.
Yes, sir. Crazy. Yes, sir. I was a little bit busy with tattooing scene. So actually, I had sessions like in these weekends, so I couldn't join. I got tired every time, and I had like little energy to join in.
Yeah, it's also what, like 1 o'clock in the morning over there?
Yes, sir. No, sir. It's 10:30 right now. Like it's 11.
Oh, okay.
Nice.
Okay.
Thank you for
Yes,
joining
sir.
us.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Always grateful, sir.
Yeah, it's 10:30 over there now. 10:30 in the morning, right?
No, sir. In the night.
Oh,
Yeah.
10:30 at night?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
PM.
Yeah, so that's a
PM,
9-hour time difference. That's crazy.
Yeah. Time
Crazy.
traveling, man.
Dude.
Time travel, dude. We're like literally in the future right now. You know what I mean?
I know, right?
Yeah.
We are simultaneously in the future
And in the
and
past.
in the past.
Whoa. It's kind of like that all the time. I mean, it's kind of like that all the time, no matter what, though. You know what I mean? Like, technically speaking, if you want to get, we'll go. I don't know. Never mind.
Well, no, I mean, you are correct, because no matter where we are or what we're doing at any given point in time, because of the way that time works around the world, not only are we doing it in the present right now, but we're also doing it in the past.
Yeah.
And in the future.
That's
right?
Yeah, it's exactly where I was going with it. Thank you. Yeah.
So we are at all points of time right now.
Whoa.
And are always existing in all points of time.
It's like heavy, man.
How crazy is that?
It's so fucking heavy. I know, right?
Yeah. Also got some exciting news for everyone. Everything has been finalized. I just have to finish making all of the advertisements for it and all of the social media promotional stuff. Chris Dunn from Deadly Tattoos has agreed to come on and be interviewed and hang out for a bit. And he's basically agreed to let me interview him. And that will be going on. That is November 7th, which is a Sunday. And that is going to be at, I think, 5 p.m. his time, 7 p.m. our time. Well, 7 p.m. East Coast. So that'll be, Sunday, November 7th at 7 p.m. Eastern time. It's daylight savings time. So spring forward, fall back.
Yeah, spring forward, fall back. Yeah.
So yeah, it's going to feel like it's 8 o'clock here, right? No. Yeah, it's going to feel like it's 8 o'clock. I think. I don't know. That the whole time zone change, daylight savings time thing really gets to me. I get confused. But yeah, Chris Dunn will be here. And then shortly after that, I'm trying to arrange something where I can get James and Anthony Tex on here as well to interview them and pick their brains about a few things. And I'm going to start reaching out to a few other people to see if I can get them on as well.
It'd be awesome, man.
Yeah, I'd love to arrange something where I could get in touch with Shige from Japan.
Ooh, shit, son.
See if I could get him on to potentially interview him. I think that would be amazing.
That'd be incredible.
Yeah, I think that would just asking them some awesome questions like what's your primary motivation, right? What drives you every day to work harder and be better than you were the day before?
Yep. That dude has an incredible work ethic, man.
Yes,
Incredible.
he does.
Dude, his work ethic is fucking just insane. He's nonstop, dude. Nonstop.
For those of you that don't know, let me pull up
Shige, Yellow.
Yeah, he's at a
Yellow
Blaze.
Right? Yeah, Yellow Blaze. Man, him and Sabato. I don't know if you guys know Sabato's work, but Sabato's awesome too. I actually met a friend of mine when he came into the shop to look at tattoos, and I saw his arm, his tattoo on his arm peeking out, and it was like this half sleeve, and I'm like, did Sabato do that? And he's like, you know who Sabato is? He's like, that dude's from Japan. I was like, yeah, were you in Japan? He's like, yeah, I lived there for a year. I was like, Sabato did that. He goes, what? It like blew his mind away. You know what I mean? So he started hanging out. We tattooed him and stuff, dude. It was a good time. It was a good time. A good time. But yeah, his work is incredible too, man. But Shige, they'd have two very different styles of Japanese work. You know what I mean? And
yeah.
But both of them are very excellent, and it's really cool. Maybe we can see both of them, Jason, because then we can show some of the differences.
I'll pull up Sabato's work.
It's very solid. It's more of a traditional kind of like Americana kind of approach, but it's not really at the same time. I don't know. It's really hard to.
Sabato Russo. What's his do you know his Instagram off the top of your head?
I don't. I can look if you want me to.
Well, let me do this. I'll just pause the sharing for a minute.
Okay, let me see here.
Let's see. So this is Shige. Some of his work.
Crazy, so crazy.
I love the softness that he has for a lot of his backgrounds.
Yeah.
And how that really contrasts his high contrast primary focal point.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is just Look at how soft that is. Those just very, very tiny itty bitty skin breaks just to separate out foreground and background and show like the interaction between the two. It's absolutely amazing. Love
That
it.
looks awesome. Look at that. How incredible is that, dude? The flow, the space that he uses, the way he uses the space that he's, you know, for the composition and everything like that. I love the way he does those flames too. And I've been seeing a lot more of that where it's like outlined with color and you still have that dark contrast around it to make it pop out. Quite the process there, man.
I can only imagine that's like a 2-stage process where you would go through and outline with one color to kind of keep that form, then go through and fill in through that color outline, just praying that you don't go over top of it.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, but with that kind of a skill, I think he's also using like just large mags for almost everything.
Yeah.
And the cool part is I wish we could see something that might be in progress. A lot of it is color, but he does the entire thing in a black and gray value before he adds the color to it, like that. Yeah, you can see where like the skin tone will be the higher contrast areas of color, or the more intense, right? And then to give it that effect of those wind bars kind of going over the subject matter, there's that wash that gets put over it, so it kind of like softens up the color.
Right.
And it's really effective, and he nails it, dude. Like, you know, you don't see a whole lot of that in the traditional Japanese tattooing, but with his work, you see it quite a bit. And I think Cale Corson, or however you pronounce his name, Cale Corson. He's from Ireland, I think, right? Yeah, his stuff is similar in style.
Yeah, he does a lot of the same stuff.
Yeah, and it's fucking effective, dude. Like, look at that. Yeah, you can see the color outline right there too, Jason. You're right.
Yep, that bright yellow outline.
Mm-hmm. Man, dude, that's just incredible stuff. But I love how they take the old rules, you know, the old images, and he's not necessarily changing them, just kind of repurposing them in a different style, different format.
Absolutely. Yeah, I won't ever forget watching him outline this entire leg sleeve at London one year. It was unbelievably mind-blowing. Just watching him work and just how unbelievably laser focused he was when he was working. Like, I swear, man, you could have gone up and like, I don't know, put an air horn next to his ear and he would not have moved.
Man, look at those cherry blossoms.
Which ones? These?
That right in the middle.
Ah.
Look at that, dude. Man, let's see. So
with like that nice pale yellow moon in the background.
Yeah, and look at the field of wash that he's using too.
Yeah.
It's like, that's such control. It's amazing. Yeah, and the real thin lines on the outlines. Is it almost like a wash line? Or is that just like a 3 or a single?
Because I'm going to pause this real quick and then I'll pull that back up and I'll show you, because I figured out a way to kind of zoom in on the image.
Oh, okay, cool.
Which technically I don't think I'm supposed to do, but yeah, it's coming from working in an IT field, you find different ways to do all of these types of things. Instagram has basically all images that you post on it locked down to prevent people from like right clicking on it. There's always a way to go through and save them though. And you just have to know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And let me see if I can find it. There we go. Yep. Am I still sharing? I think I'm still sharing.
Yes, sir.
Cool. Yeah. So this is like a very close up macro, almost true to size actual image.
That's fucking cool, dude. Look at that. See what I'm saying? Like look at the petals on the blossoms, and then the line work on the leaves, and like it's such variation too, because like even the leaves further in the background have less of that concentrated kind of black line. They look
Right.
like this. They look like it's the same line weight, but
Yeah, just
look,
some are done with pure black, like these
yeah,
guys.
yeah, and it's
And
just
then some are done with more of like a wash.
right, and that's what I'm seeing there. And then like look at the color outline on the side of the flower too. It's meticulous. It's meticulous in time, but it pays off though. You know what I mean? Like look how consistent it all is. That stuff I would love to see it in person too, man. I can only imagine.
I bet
how
you it
awesome
healed
that
up
is.
flawlessly. I mean, yeah, the skin is super irritated and red from,
It's just that
all the trauma that's been caused. But when you can still see that super light, soft pink
Mhm,
and like some of those super vibrant, pure white tones,
mhm.
this is exactly how it's going to heal.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
It looks fantastic. It's
And you can
very
see like how the value of gray wash in the background here is going to be carried through over into here as it turns a little bit darker,
mhm.
and getting gray wash to saturate the skin in that kind of a way in a
Yeah.
flat blanket field using nothing but pure gray wash with no white, no opaque gray, strictly diluted black is
Yeah.
an art form in and of itself. That
Oh,
is
yeah, for
not
sure.
easy to do at all in any way.
I remember seeing Philip Blue's stuff that was like that way back in the day, and I was like, holy shit.
Mm-hmm. Oh
Same
yeah,
thing, just
dude. He's the
big fields
master
of
at
it.
that.
Yeah, big fields of it, man. Big fields.
All right, let's pull up some of Sabato's work. And we'll kind of do like a comparison there.
Let's do that.
So the redness on that area was due to the lightest gray wash, lightest
Yeah.
tone.
Yes. There's definitely
So
like
that much of
some.
red, like
It,
it was the the shade was very very thin, the gray
Yep.
yes.
wash, but it was
Yes.
looking like, but the healed gray wash was looking like really good.
Yep. Yeah, you can see the differences whenever you have light gray washes like that, like a really diluted black. It will be very pink whenever it lays into the skin, and whenever it's just freshly done, it's like super magenta like that for sure. And then once it heals, it's just so soft. It just comes back and it's like this real powdery, soft gray. It's pretty cool looking. But
So the
yes,
healed one was looking like uh, I don't know, like 50% gray or like some. Is it
I would say that's more like 25%.
25%? Okay.
Yeah, I would say it's more like 25%, maybe even a little bit less than that as far as the dilution ratio goes. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
trying to
usually.
find Sabato examples of Sabato's work.
Let me see. Let me see if I can find him some of this stuff. Sabato tattoos. I can't remember where he used to work.
Jason, sir, can you give some pointers to like do some study on flowers, how to draw the peonies and chrysanthemums and cherry
It's all
blossoms
circles.
circles?
All circles. Ricardo might see triangles in it, but it's all circles. But then again, according to Ricardo, a circle is made up of nothing but triangles. So, I mean,
No.
that makes
Triangles.
sense.
Well, I mean, you got to think about like a pizza pie,
Right?
so there you go. There's triangles there. So boom.
He's like, yeah, what? What?
Okay, let's see. I have found. Nope, that's not it either. He says, "Is it eccentric super tattoo?" Let me see.
Ariel
think-
Di Samano? No.
I think it might be
Fury Sabato?
eccentric super tattoo is where he works. Maybe no, that was in 2006. Let's see. Man, dude.
But yes, I'll go over that in just a minute for you, Akshay.
Yes, sir.
I just want to try to do like a quick side-by-side comparison of Sabato and Shige.
Yes, sir.
Lovesabato.com. Let's see. Here's this it. All right, I'm gonna forward you a link, Jason.
Okay. It's not a link to your OnlyFans, is it? Because I
No,
already
not-
have that.
Not this time.
Okay.
Not this time. Okay, let me send this to you real quick. I think this is it. Jason, just put in the group. Okay, that should be it.
Oh wow, yeah. He's at Eccentric Super Tattoo,
I think that might be it. Yeah.
or that's featured in articles. So Love Sabato. No, website's down.
Yeah. Looks like we'll have to wait then.
Let's see. Let's try one other avenue. Yes, indeed. No. All right. So yeah, let me pull up an example of his work real quick. I think this is the right guy that you're talking about.
It's proving to be difficult. I believe so.
Is this the same guy?
Let's see some more of his work. It looks like it might be.
Because it almost seems like he's started to take on like a Western,
Yeah.
Traditional kind of perspective on it.
Very bold. Yeah, this is some. I don't know. I don't think I've seen this stuff. A lot of the stuff that I was seeing him do still had a lot more influence from the Japanese culture. Yeah, it looks kind of like his stuff. I think that might be it, man. But it looks like he's definitely taking on some more like Western. Yeah, there you go. Can't really see that bird. That's a huge difference. What about those sleeve chest panels down there at the bottom?
This one?
Yeah, that one or the one below it. There you go. Yeah, that looks like his stuff. Super solid, super open.
Let's see if I can zoom in on it. Oh, nope. Yeah, very, very classic, very more very traditional as far as his execution of it. You see that a lot with like a lot of guys over at Three Tides.
Yeah.
And there are a few other well-known studios over in Japan. The ones that come across my mind first of all are Yellow Blaze and
yeah.
Three Tides. And Three Tides Tattoo is like awesome. And they're right in Tokyo too. But
There's a lot of Japanese tattooers in Austin, Texas, too, that are pretty good.
Yeah. Yes, there are.
What's that dude's name? I can't remember. Chris Trevino.
Chris Trevino, yeah.
Chris Trevino he's got a big body of work too, dude. It's incredible.
Oh yeah,
that guy's another one of those dudes where he's just like nonstop, just working all the time. Chris Trevino's pretty good too. Now, when I lived in Texas, when I first started getting into tattooing, I saw a few of his pieces, and even back then, man, that stuff was just pretty incredible.
Yeah, I'm trying to find, let's see if I can. I don't think he's got an Instagram.
I don't think so either. I think the last thing that I saw on YouTube about him was he was talking about trying to figure that stuff out. And it's just like, dude, there's so many good tattoo artists out there that have been tattooing for decades and nobody knows who they are. Marcus Pacheco's another one, dude. That guy's work is amazing too.
Oh yeah, dude. Yeah, here's he's at Perfection Tattoo.
That might be it, yeah.
In Austin, Texas.
I believe so. I don't know the name of the shop, but yeah.
That's what Google told me. So I'm assuming it's correct.
Yeah, look at that.
Look at all those waves, man.
Dude, and then look at how big all those pieces are too. Just
yeah,
one leg after another, one arm after another. Look at that.
Look at all of those waves. That is intense.
Like the fire at the circus.
Very much so.
Yeah, look at that. That's awesome. Yeah, it's got that old style to it too, man.
Mm-hmm.
There's a little bit of like
the motion in it.
There's a little bit of like Ed Hardy kind of flair to the inner part of the wave too. Yeah, those like ridges that are in there, to show that water pulling down and stuff.
I love his limited use of blue as well.
Mm-hmm. It's like really letting the that 50-50 value system in the Japanese work like really come through that way. It's just like line work, black and color, like simple, and then let the skin do a lot of the work for you. That tattoo would look like that forever. I'm sure of it, man.
Oh, no doubt. You even got a little bit like in this general area.
Yeah.
You see a little bit of the Greg Irons influence. Same thing over here.
Yeah. Yeah. Pretty awesome.
Yep. Here's another Greg Irons influenced area.
Mm-hmm. And you can see how much of that was done that day too, man. Like, dude, like a lot of it was done that day, looks like. Yeah, it's solid. Yeah,
there was a video. I think there were a couple teaser videos up on Vice Network, the Vice Tattoo or the Vice News Network.
Okay.
I know that he was in a few of them. They had a whole series called Tattoo Age. That was absolutely inspirational.
Yeah, I've seen those. Those are pretty good. You're right,
dude. They were absolutely awesome. I loved them.
Yeah.
But let's get on to Akshay asked a question about
oh, your camera died, bud.
Yep. Hold on. Coming back on. Just had to plug this guy back in.
Skynet, man.
Skynet is a real thing, dude.
It's for real.
All right, so let's pull up a blank document. Here's a good one. I'll work on this guy a little bit more. So if that's my reference and that's kind of what I was going off of, I'll walk you through how I was working on all of it. Every flower that I tattoo, every peony that I tattoo starts off as circles. Always circles. And I'm actually going to go through. Let's use, I'll use the Ricardo Special otherwise known as the soft square sketching brush.
Yeah, flat brush, man. Square flat brush.
I call it the
That's a
Ricardo special.
Ricardino.
Let's see if I can get this screen oriented a little bit of a better way. No, maybe.
It's just giving you a hard time today, brother.
Sometimes, you know, when technology works, it works well, but when it doesn't, it sucks.
Yeah, for sure.
I
love technology.
Right.
Not as
But
much as
so
you
what I would do
see.
is I would always start out all of my peonies like circles. Start out with a circle because that is your basic building block of these flowers. From there, I always try to figure out what direction do I want it to flow in? Where do I want that center of the flower to be? Okay. From there, I would go through and I would say I want my center opening here, right? I would go through and I would draw this almost like I'm dissecting an orange in half. And then I would cut across this way a little bit more to give me like a little X. This little X right here is going to be my center point of where that flower opens. So I know that everything I draw around it, it is going to be petals. I then also try to find like where this is going to intersect at the bottom. You know, so let's say right there. If that's my intersecting point, I know that all of my outer petals need to come from this intersecting centralized point. I'll make that blue, like a darker blue. So I've got my centralized point there, and I've got my centralized opening here. From there, it's as easy as starting out with, and I'll go darker blue so you can kind of see what I'm doing a little bit better. From there, it's as easy as doing a lot of big loops. That's literally all it is. So if I want to have, let's do one here and loop it back. And I'll do another one and I'll loop it back. Say I want to do one more back here, do one more and loop it back. This is essentially all that I'm doing as far as like just roughing in the placement of these petals. And you can already start to see it taking form. You know, maybe I want to start doing, let's do one this way. And then I want to do one back here. Then I want to do another one coming down this way. So right now we're just looking at like flow and placement of these petals. And then any of them that come towards you, you're only going to see like a little bit of the edge because that edge of the petal is going to be directly facing you. The way that you would tackle that is by making it a bit wider to show like distance and foreshortening. And then just looping that around. And it's just essentially one big loop that's coming towards you that's going to be a bit thinner than everything else. You know, I want to probably close this gap in. So I'll do another one back in here. And let's do one that kind of comes down a little bit here and comes back around. Now comes the fun part. Adding all those like little ridges and spikes and all that stuff. This is what usually takes me the longest part of drawing these out. And I'm going to switch over to, we'll go Procreate Pencil. It's a fun one I haven't used in a while. From here, I'm going to create another layer to kind of lay out where the folds and the flaps of the peony petals are basically overlapping. So I'm going to draw another layer here. And I'm going to bring this up, and I'll divide this one into, say, 2 parts, right? So I'll do one centralized line there. Here's another part. Maybe I'll have like another part here. You know, you can divide this middle portion into 2 parts, 3 parts. If you want to keep it more interesting, keep it with an odd number. So either keep it solid or keep it with like 3 parts, but build them up in a triangular pattern.
Wait,
Yes.
what?
Yes. Yes. I said it.
Okay.
A triangular pattern.
All right. Just making sure. I'm just making
So
sure.
if I
I'm not
were to
going
dissect
crazy-er.
this and have a triangle here, I would want to make sure that this top portion that gets rounded off, if I was drawing in 3s, is going to be the furthest one extended. And then I'm going to do another loop, and then I'll do another loop over here. Here's a loop. That one's going to be there, and then this is going to come down, and then this one's going to come over like that. Okay. That's going to give you a more visually interesting composition than doing 2. So we'll stick with that for now. Over here with this guy, once again, I want to do 3. So you don't have to draw the triangle. I just like to do it because I'm going to visualize my center line is here. So I know if I have my triangle here, this is going to be my top portion, and then it's going to bounce over. Top portion, bounce over, and the rest of it's going to be hidden by the rest of the petals. Where you get to petals that are kind of turning, and I'll address this guy up front in just a minute. When you get to petals that are turning and folding over so that you only really see half of them, that can get to be a little tricky sometimes. So if I'm going to draw this guy, I'm going to draw the back spine or the center spine of this petal. And then I'm going to bring it right back down. And I always like to give these like 1 or 2 bumps. No, not the white powdery kind of bump. Just a regular like little curved line bump. Okay. From there, this part is going to extend and curl right back over. Once again, all of these centralized spine lines need to be with the right curve back to that center line. That's how you know everything's going to flow and look appropriately as far as its direction. If it's all meeting back up at this blue dot that we had for our center line for these petals, everything will work out just fine. You know, keep it with a steady, consistent curve. Don't try to, you know, curve and then curve. It makes it too squared off. You want to avoid a squared off kind of look for the back edge of that petal. So keep it a nice, soft, flowing curve. Same thing here. This is the inner petal. Want to make sure that this center line comes back around. Maybe I'll bring this down and then over. Maybe I'll have like another little portion of this guy that's, you know, being hidden by the rest of the petal. This big guy up here, once again, I'm going to draw a triangle. Boom, boom. 1, 2, and 3. Then this part will come down. Maybe I'll do another guy this way. Maybe I'll come over this way a little bit more. Since I'm going to be seeing a lot more of the interior of this guy, of this petal, I'm going to keep this pretty shallow. And by shallow, I mean, I'm not going to really do too much of a fold over on this one because we're not really seeing too much of the back of the petal. Most of the back of that petal is going to be facing away from the viewer. So what I'm going to do is just draw this. This is going to be the side where it's kind of curling over. From there, I'm going to do 1 big guy and then 3. This guy can come down and then probably come over a little bit more. Once again, we're just refining our basic shapes right now. Same thing over here. This will be our spine line. Bring this down and then there. There's that. There's this. These don't have to be perfect. In fact, they shouldn't be perfect. They shouldn't be symmetrical. Maybe I want to give this a little bit of a fold over, and then I want to do a bump and then another bump. Because remember, flowers in and of themselves are not perfect. They are not built perfectly symmetrical. They are not built with an exact number of bumps on every petal. They are not built so that they are consistent or standardized in any general way, right? They might have a rough form that stays consistent, but every petal is going to end up looking different, and that is the way that it should be, because that's the way nature works.
Nature. Oh, nature.
You know, I'm going to give this guy a little bump and then another big one. This guy back here, I'm actually going to make a little bit wider, and I'm going to start out with a small bump, mini bump, big bump, mini bump. I always like to throw these mini ones in between larger ones, just because it helps separate and gives it more of a jagged kind of feel without it being jagged. Now, to address the petal up front that we had mentioned before, I'm going to erase all of this stuff because all of this is going to be obscured by the petal that's coming closest towards us. I always like to, actually, I shouldn't have drawn that. If this is my center line for this petal, I'm going to start out with this weird looking like U shape. It's like a very flattened out U. Okay. From there, I'm going to take basically an S curve, and I'm going to draw an S and bring it in. From here, I'm going to draw an S and bring it down. And you can see this like rough, slight S curve going on. That's going to give me a dynamic view and a dynamic angle. And I know that this is going to be coming up this far. So maybe my center line's off a little bit, but for demo purposes, it's what I got. From there, for this one, I always like to draw 3 individual segments. So starting out broad and then bringing this part over. So there's section 1, 2, and then 3 is going to be over here. Once again, odd numbers create a more dynamic and engaging composition as far as your petal structures go. Try to stick with odd numbers if at all possible.
Odd's the way to go for sure.
Why? Because we're all a little bit odd.
We're all odd.
Especially me. I'm really odd. Now
Well,
let's tackle
imagine.
this inner portion, okay? The inner portion is probably the easiest of all of them to draw. And that's because you're going to start out with like a C or like a slight curved line, bring it down, over, and over again. Okay. We'll draw another one here, down, over, and over again. Over here, curved line, down, over again, so that they overlap. Same thing up here, curved line, down, over again. And then for this last one back here, we'll do 3 parts. We'll do 1, 2, 3. Okay. On the inside, this is where things get really, really easy. Since we know that this is our center line for the inside, we're going to have a slight curve back here for where the interior bulb of the peony curves around. From here, I try to draw essentially any kind of like a 5-pointed shape. So sometimes I'll literally just sit down and draw a star so that I know where my intersections are. And then I'll follow that down and around, follow that one there, follow this guy over here, follow this one down over here. And this is just going to give me a base layout for how my center points are arranged. So I'm going to go through and draw one little guy here, and then another bump, and I'm going to have that overlap. This guy is going to come around and curve back. This guy is going to come around and be overlapped by this guy up front. This guy I'm actually going to give like a little bump to, and then this guy is going to get another little bump as well. So there's our interior and how things kind of close up. You know, if I wanted to be super fancy, I would bring this down and I would give this an overlapping bump in this direction, make this guy up front. Sometimes with these, where these curves come around, by curves, I mean like these outer spine portions. Sometimes I like to give those a little bit of an S curve instead of a C curve. And I'll show you what I'm talking about. We'll make that a little bit less opaque, that a little bit less opaque. So sometimes what you can do to really demonstrate flow with these petals is by giving them an S curve instead of a C curve. And by that, I mean, if I take this and I start out coming around and then curve it out with a slight S, that can give me a little bit more of a dynamic overlay and make it look a little bit more fancy. Like this part's really kind of curling back. And then you can always reconnect it by going point to point. If you really want to get super fancy, you can do what I like to call the V for how these petals fold over. Because if you look at it, kind of like, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I kind of see like a V here.
Absolutely.
Right? Which is 2/3 of a triangle.
Really know.
Quiet you. Ricardo, by the way, I never said you were wrong that triangles weren't in everything. All I've ever said was that I couldn't see them.
I get it.
You know, so if you really want to get super fancy, say you've got like, you know, another petal hanging out back here. Maybe you want to use this V cut this way. You know, that could make that one really interesting, depending on how many petals you want your peony to have. By the way, less is more. The fewer the petals, the better, unless you're doing like a giant one, like a giant bloom. Keep it to a couple of them. Keep it simple. Keep your shapes and your areas simple. It's going to make it a way more readable and legible design.
Very well said, Jason.
Well, I mean, it's the difference between, you know, confusing the eye to the point that you know it's a flower, but it's hard for you to pick out what's going on in it. And then for you to be able to sit down and have your mind instantly digest petal, 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 petal.
Yep.
Petal, 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 petal. Cool, easy, done.
Yeah.
But if your mind has to process 32 different petals on this peony,
yeah,
it's going to go crazy and it's not going to be visually interesting. There's going to be too much going on. So keep them very, very simple. In fact, if I was doing this for a tattoo, I would go back through and redraw it, and I would get rid of probably half of these petals. But I need to have them so that I can demonstrate different angles and perspectives and how things fold over and stuff like that. So if I was going to go through and do this, now to refine it even further, I would go through and I would take like Studio Pen works. I would actually go through, I would keep the bottom spines very smooth. Right? Big, small, big, small, big. Right? And then you can just drag these down. That'll make that part more visually interesting. Big, small, big, small, big, small, big, big, small, big. Just to mix it up a little bit. Anywhere where you have these corners or these indents where two curves meet, drop a line, drop a line, drop a line. Sometimes you want to do curves in the other direction to kind of show which direction it's flowing, right? If I have this petal that's flowing down in this direction, and I've got one that's flowing up in this direction, right? They're going to have two different types of flow lines. Since this guy I know is flowing out and down like that, then I know that these up here are going to want to follow that directional flow. Same thing with these outer lines. I'm going to want to curve all of that back in. Bring your eye back into the center of the flower. And that's what these visual lines are doing. It's redirecting your eye, because without those, when your eye sees just the petal, without those directional lines, it looks very open, right? It doesn't really look like there's too much of a definitive flow. It looks like a kind of like a curvy blob, right? Like what that looks like a curvy blob to me. I have no idea what that is. But by redirecting your eye and bringing your eye back into the middle of the flower, it's like, oh, I see.
You're a tricky one.
Well, I like to use subtle visual cues.
That is the proponents for a good composition.
Well, it's all about making people look where you want them to look, right?
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
So if I was going to do this guy, I would start out with a generalized curve here, bring it down. Maybe I'll start small, go big, small. And then the rest of this is going to be hidden behind this petal. And this petal is going to come down in front of it. Maybe I'll bring that down and I'll start out big, small, big, small, big. And then this can curve around. Boom. There's a petal. Pew, pew. Now, I draw chrysanthemums in a very different way that's very, very unorthodox, but it works really well. So I continue to do it that way. This guy would have curving lines, bringing your eye back down to this center point, right? That's essentially where we want to redirect the eye after we look at these strong directional spinal lines at the base of each petal, right? Because these big, thick spine lines on the bottoms of the petals are leading our eye in a different direction. We want to bring it back by using a complementary amount of thinner lines to bring our eye back to the center of the flower. Okay, that way there's visual balance. This guy down here, once again, I'm going to start out with this weird U shape and an S and an S. And then I'm going to go pew, 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 pew. Big, small. Big, big, small, big. Then I'll bring this guy in. Then I'll bring this guy in. There's the basis for like every peony I've drawn ever. Right? It's really cool what you can do by playing around with just directional lines with these, because you can have them literally creating curves and flows that will move your eye in a specific direction. You know, like if I had another petal coming out here, flowing down this way, and I had this guy kind of coming up and coming over as well, this way, I'm creating a definitive visual flow overall of moving the eye in this direction. If that makes any sense.
Definitively. It does make sense.
Let's see if I can. Where was that? That was under here and here. Right. This way you're not looking at it upside down. Cool. So that's the way that I would draw a peony. And I would continue going around, maybe add some leaves for counterflow and different visual effects. Now, I'm going to start out with that same circle that I had before. The same one. But this time we're going to draw a chrysanthemum.
Wow, sir.
Why? Because both peonies and chrysanthemums start out as small circular buds. Okay. From there, they open up and they bloom and their petals spread out. And that's when you get these gorgeous blossoms. But as I mentioned before, my chrysanthemum process is very different. For this one, I'm going to go down to my airbrush tool. Actually, no, I think I put it under inking. Yes. So I like to use a hard airbrush, and you can also do this by hand if you don't have an iPad. Actually, I'll show you that way, since it's probably going to be a little bit easier for people to digest. Rather than showing you the shortcuts, I'm going to show you the long way to do it, which is just fine.
Oh, great.
Quiet you. Just because you're right all the time doesn't mean anything.
I'm never right.
You are always right.
Never.
You're
Never
right
hardly.
even when you're wrong.
Never hardly.
You're like
ever.
Chuck Norris.
Oh, dude, that's awesome.
You're like the Chuck Norris of art.
How does it go? How many push-ups can Chuck Norris do? None. He pushes the world down or something like that.
Right? All right. So for chrysanthemums, you're going to want to start out with a very, very light. It's a shame I can't really zoom in too much on this, but you're going to want to start out with a very, very light oval for your first layer, and then curve this back in. Once again, sticking with our primary center point down here. Okay, this is our very important, super crazy epicenter of where all of our petals are going to be, including our center point, right? This is where it connects to the stem. Okay, which means it's the origin of all of the different petals. So we're going to curve this back around to our center point. This curves back around to our center point. And actually, I'm going to adjust this central opening just a hair. Yeah, there we go. That's a good one. Cool. So I've got my first layer, my first inner layer. Sometimes I'll do a secondary inner layer. Once again, by just drawing a rough oval. and then bringing it back down and connecting it to our center point. This is where things get a little weird with chrysanthemums. Chrysanthemums are a bit crazy, but they're very nice people, but they're a bit crazy because they've got so many petals. It's hard to keep track of them, right? I mean, tattooing all of those lines can become an absolute nightmare if you're not organized with the way that you lay things out. This is where using different colored pencils really comes in handy. Starting out, what I'm going to do is start out. I'm not even going to bother with this inner portion just yet. Not even going to bother with it. Because if I do that, I'm going to create too many lines. And then when I go to do my outside lines, I'm going to lose all of that. And then it's going to be a nightmare. And then I'm going to be stuck trying to figure out what I was trying to do in certain spots while I'm doing this live on YouTube. And then everyone's going to think I'm an idiot. And they're going to know my secret that I actually am an idiot. But I don't want them to know that just yet.
Oh, man.
What?
You're crazy.
I know. That's why people like me. So from here, I'm literally just going to start drawing some lines starting from this centralized point. And I'm going to draw them pretty big just so that you can see what I'm doing. As I get closer towards the center, they're going to have a lot less of an actual arc or a curve. As I'm working my way out, I'm trying to maintain the same curve. I'm literally just changing the angle of the line as I move around with it. For any of the petals that come towards us, it's going to be a much harsher arc up because that's going to show a perspective and foreshortening. And I'll show you how we deal with foreshortening with a chrysanthemum in just a minute. Once again, they don't have to be perfect because flowers by nature are not perfectly constructed. You know, if I wanted to do a very, very simple spider mum, this is exactly the way I would go about creating it. And this is the way that I have drawn them for years. And I love drawing mums. I love them. Their complexity, you just get lost in the outlines. Yeah, good enough. Good enough for the demo. Maybe I'll add one more interior here. So now that we have that layer, I would, if I was doing this analog, I would be drawing all of this in colored pencil, and I would have many, many, many sheets of tracing paper handy, or vellum, or whatever translucent drawing surface you choose. If you don't have a translucent drawing medium to work with, you can always just use a light box or a window on a bright sunny day. You know, if you don't have too many bright sunny days where you live, you can always find someone that, you know, has like a magnifying glass or a laser beam or something. I don't know. You'll find a way to make it work. Right?
You can find a soda machine too.
Yeah, true.
Like a big light box. I've done that before.
Hey man, necessity is the mother of invention.
That's right, brother.
So I'm actually, let me merge that down, create a new layer. And I'm going to go with something a little bit darker, a little bit thinner for this next part. So from here, here's a very easy way to not get lost with your petals. work from the outside closest to you in. Because as you draw them from the outside closest to you into the inside, the petals that you draw first are going to obscure the other petals, which basically gives you less lines to draw. So you can draw them a lot faster and not get lost, because you know that I know that these are going to be up front. And I know that visually speaking, part of these front row are going to cover up and make it hard for us to see the ones behind it. Right?
Yes, sir.
It's like holding your hand up in front of like the screen at which you're watching this show, right? If you can't see through your hand to see the screen. So it's the same thing with petals, right? That's just the way our vision works. If something is blocking our vision, we can't see what's behind it. From here, I'm going to take all of these lines that I just drew up and I'm going to turn them into bigger loops. Almost like teardrop shaped loops. I'm going to start out with like the line that I first drew, and then I'm just going to loop it over. Some are going to be longer than others. Some are going to be at different angles than others. The angle at which and the width at which you make this loop is going to ultimately determine the perspective that you see these petals from. The shorter the teardrop shape, the more of a side or a back perspective you're going to see them. The bigger the teardrop shape, the more of the back part of the petal you will be viewing.
Hey, Jason, I hate to interrupt, but I got to get heading out here pretty quick.
You go do all of the things today, Ricardo.
Cool,
do
man.
all of them.
I plan on it,
Don't
dude.
miss
every
one.
day.
Do all of the things.
I will not. Can I show you guys what I've been working on?
Hell yeah, dude.
Sir.
Show you real fast. I worked on this spider a little bit more.
Oh, crazy, sir.
That's sick, dude.
Yeah, it's starting to come along. I started knocking a bunch of stuff down, like some of the fuzzier stuff, and I'm starting to go back in and tighten it back up again. I just got to finish working on the teeth a little bit. And I need to get a sharper charcoal pencil to get into some of these like details on the little round beady eyes and stuff. But he's coming along.
I'd love to see you coat that with like a permanent fixative and then hit it with like some microns.
Yeah, I think I'm going to do the permanent fixative or the workable one, right? And then layer it. And
that'll work.
And then I'm going to use the permanent fixative and I'm going to go back in with a white acrylic and really just hit some really key points
for your
on some of the
brights.
little spots. Yeah, the super brights. Yeah. And like maybe just a little bit of a washed out white for some of the little webbing and stuff like that kind of like some of the stuff that might hang down, you know what I mean? So,
see, I would be careful about that, man, because if you go back through, even with the washed out white, it might make it too bright.
Yeah.
So I would see, personally speaking, I would see if I could do it in chalk first.
Okay.
Right. Or like a white Conti crayon, just to keep it more subtle.
Okay.
You know, as opposed to going through and hitting it with like a thinned out or a washed out like white acrylic.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll definitely give it like a little sample, like on a different test piece of paper or something like that. But yeah, I'll take that into consideration, man. Thank you. Because I don't want to ruin it now. So
right.
But cool. Well, thank you, Jason. It's always a pleasure. Akshay, it's awesome seeing you, man. Jason, you're always informative, dudes, and I love what you're doing with these flowers. How you're explaining them, it makes a lot of sense. So
yeah, it's you know, when you draw the same thing 12,000 times, you learn a few tricks.
Isn't that awesome?
And I spent the better part of 2 years drawing nothing but snakes and chrysanthemums. So,
and they're both awesome as hell whenever I see you draw them. So radical. Awesome, man. All right, guys. Y'all have a good day. I'll talk
you
to you
do the
soon.
same, buddy.
Bye,
Peace.
sir.
Later. All right. So as I move towards these outer petals, these teardrop shapes are going to get a little bit smaller. And that's because not quite so much of the petal is going to be folding over. And I'm not really worried too much about anything in this generalized area right now, just because we're going to get to that in the next step. That's going to be small. This one's going to be, we'll make this one a little bit longer so that we make this one a little bit closer towards us. Same thing here. We'll put these more in the foreground. Anything that's going to be in the foreground is going to be a bit bigger, obviously. Anything that's going to be in the background is going to be a lot fainter and a lot smaller.
Yes, sir.
Even though it's stylized, standard basic art principles will always apply. This guy's going to be a lot bigger because it's going to be in the foreground. We'll make this guy bigger in the foreground. This little guy over here is going to be smaller and push back a little bit more. Same thing here. Same thing here. And same thing here. Okay. Next step is to go through and draw those interconnecting petals and make it so that each petal is actually essentially a two-dimensionally flat loop, right? So
Yes, sir.
if this is my back portion of this petal, this is my inner portion. If this is my back portion, I'm going to draw another line that parallels that spine line that I drew first.
Yes, sir.
And that's going to be my inner portion. Here's my inner portion. Okay. This one's kind of tricky because it's more to the side. So I'm going to start that inner portion coming down a little bit, maybe about halfway. These guys are going to be almost completely facing the viewer. So I don't even really need to draw a line for that one. Same thing over here. This is going to be almost completely facing the viewer. So I really don't need to draw too much of a line for that. This one, I may give just a tiny bit. But once again, since most of it's going to be facing the viewer, I'm not really going to be worried about that so much. This one is going to flow in this direction, making it two-dimensional. This one, since you're seeing mostly the back, is you're only going to see a tiny little bit. Okay, but once again, all points are coming back to this point of origin. No
Yes, sir.
matter what flower I'm drawing or where that petal is, all of those points are always moving back to that point of origin where these petals originate. Without that point of origin, you're basically going to get lost and nothing's going to look like it flows correctly, and it's not going to look like it connects to an actual flower bud. This one will come in, you know, and I see that a lot when people draw flowers and they're like, oh, I'll just draw it on, but like something doesn't look right. It's because 9 times out of 10, it's because those petals never go back to the origin where they would be meeting the stem.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and then I'll draw another one there. This is going to get a little bit darker because I want that to stand out. This one's going to get a little guy down here. Here's that. Here's this. Here's this. This comes down, over. This is here. Okay, this is very, very simple and basic chrysanthemum petals. If we wanted to go through and get super crazy with it, I would go through and maybe add like another small little guy back over here that would curl in to kind of show like multiple layers and make things irregular. In fact, I'll probably keep that one. This is why I always recommend drawing from the outside in, because you can see how much time I've already saved just by not having to draw these line segments and getting lost, not having to draw this and getting lost. None of this stuff I had to draw in to get lost. Did miss a line there, but that's okay. You know, so I'm saving myself a lot of time. You know, maybe I want to do one more guy over here, just so that way things maintain irregularity and things look a little bit off because it's a flower and it's supposed to be a little bit weird and off. Okay. So now that we've got that, we've got 2 rows of interior petals to draw. Although I'm probably going to cut that down to 1 row, and I'll probably just do the 1 row because I think the other row is going to be a little bit too much. So to do the interior row, it's way easier than you think. It's literally just loops that come down to our point of origin. There's a loop. There's a loop. Here's a loop. Okay. And as we go around, we see less and less of these loops, and they eventually become ovals. Maybe I'll bring this down a little bit. This guy can come down a little bit. Okay, if you really want to get creative and funky with things, you can do another row of ovals to show like an interior, like the interior of the chrysanthemum. And try to keep them staggered so that none of the lines match up. You know, you don't want to do, you never, ever, ever want to end up in a situation where you have like maybe something coming over here and this lines up here. And I'll draw this in green to kind of illustrate my point. So if this is our existing petal, we never want to have a petal line up so that it looks like this. Okay. This is bad. Do not do this because you're going to lose your petals like that. You always want to keep everything staggered. So if this comes up here, this one's going to connect to the middle, that's going to connect to the middle, and that one's going to go out of bounds. This is going to come across. This is going to come across. This is going to come across and go out of bounds, right? So that this way, none of those lines, none of those visual lines will ever intersect and blend into each other. It's something I see a lot of people do very, very often, and it really bothers me. Mostly just because I have OCD and it does not look like it's a connecting line. Joe just said hello from Michigan. What's up, Joe? Thanks for watching. So yeah, as far as the interior of the chrysanthemum goes, that's the easiest piece of cake in the world. Draw yourself a circle, a very light circle. more of like an oval really than a circle, right? Then just draw a whole bunch of lines radiating out from the middle of that. These are going to be like all of the little like interior stamen of the chrysanthemum. Okay. If you want to get super fancy, you can draw super tiny little circles on the inside. I usually like to do that, and then I'll make those white with like a yellow middle. It just makes it look a little bit more fancy. You can even draw some of the little stamen on in between some of the petals as well, if you really, really want to get super creative with it. And just to show you what this would look like outlined. Awesome brush. I love this brush. As far as like all the tiny little bells and whistles, I usually like to bring them down and then give them a little hook and then back out. Let me do that again. I'll bring them out, give them a hook in the middle, and then it's like a big weird S curve shape. Boom. From there, I can always draw a center line. That's one way to do it. Petal edge variations vary based on whoever is drawing them. So try to come up with your own. I know some people that will just keep a solid outer edge, give it a little hook, and then they'll just bring it down like that. It's one way to do it. And I know you can't really see that. I know I'm zooming in, but like I know it's kind of hard to see. So maybe no, I can't do that. Darn. Yeah, I'm just trying to think of like if there's a better way to share my screen, but since I already have it up,
I can see
I'll spotlight myself. That way it's a little bit bigger for everyone. Actually, I'm going to stop your video for just a second, Akshay. Just so that
Yes, sir,
that way
okay.
I'm at the forefront, so that way everyone can see what I'm doing a little bit easier.
Yes, sir.
All right, so this is one variation where you literally just follow that center line all the way around, give it like a little dot, and then bring it back down and around. Okay, so that's one possible variation. You'll see other people out there that they'll take a center line and they'll draw a center line for the next step of the petal. Then they'll give that a little curve and a couple of little bumps and down. Then you'll see them bring it out and around, kind of like that. That's
Yes, sir.
another way to do it. You have some people that will literally just leave them as like two-dimensional flat petals, and that's totally cool. You know, this in and of itself could stand up as a small chrysanthemum. You know, it all depends on the variation and how specific you want to get. You can also have different petals turning in other weird directions. You know, depending on how crazy you want to get, you can get super crazy with them. There are some people I know that will go through, and let's do one of these bigger guys. They will draw something that looks like this, right? And they'll kind of bring it back like this and around. And then they'll draw like a little bit of a line for where it would fold over, right? If they wanted to have like the tip of the petal folding over, they could draw something like that. And then that would make it look like the actual chrysanthemum petal is folding over on itself. That can be pretty cool. And you can draw that from different angles and different perspectives. You know, for these back guys, I usually like to keep them a little bit thinner and a little bit more simplistic, just because you don't want the attention to be drawn onto those. Now maybe I'll do something like that where that part's at an angle. This part's twisted a little bit more. This part's coming around. You know, if I wanted to get crazy with this guy, I could draw my center line. If you want to show like an abrupt angle or like a bend in one of the petals, say this guy all the way up at the top. Watch here for a minute. If I want to show where this bends, say I want to have it have like a bent petal at like a pretty extreme angle, what you can do is you can actually go through. Let me switch over back to my pencil. You can say you want to have your bend here. Okay. So this could come up, down, and then hook. And then back down. Create like a tiny little point. Bring this out. And then do like a bump or two. And then a bump or two down. And smooth it out. On the other side, you would bring it out. Curve it back up. And then back around. Back out. And then in. Right? And then we would once again do like a couple of little bumps and smooth it out. And now you've just created a bent petal, right? So using that little trick, you can show some directional flow. You can show like, you can make it a lot more of a dynamic composition. Say I wanted this petal down here to twist a little bit more and go all the way over onto its side. Say I wanted to give it like a backflow as opposed to, you know, just kind of curling. Instead of curling up in this direction, say I wanted to give it a flow more as like an arc in this direction, right? To show direction of the way that it's bending and the way that it's moving. I would draw instead of drawing a C curve, just like with the peony, I would draw an S curve. By drawing the S curve, that will allow me to go through. Maybe I want to have this folded over more. That would come in, bend. So kind of hard to like really see what I just did there, but let me see if I can clean it up a little bit. Nah, let me do it again so that you can see it a little bit easier. Okay, so if I wanted to give that an S curve, I would come down, I would bend. And I know this doesn't really look like it works well, but once everything is shaded and the value is set, it's perfect. Kind of messed that one up. Hold on. So that's my center line. Where would that go? That would come around. That would come in. That would come over. This we would keep a bit more simplified, and then this would come around as well. So that would be smoothed out. Cool. There we go. That's better. So that the whole time this down here is outer petal. This is outer petal. This is inner petal. And then this is inner petal. Now, I always recommend, if you're tattooing a chrysanthemum, I always recommend cross hatching either the interior of the petals or the exterior of the petals. This way you don't get confused as you're going through and tattooing it, which part is which. Because trust me when I say, when you're dealing with this many lines in any given tattoo design, it can get super confusing super quick. So kind of my 2 cents on that. You can have them moving around in any given general direction. Once again, always, one of my recommendations is always try to give them directional flow. Okay. Let's say this is going on an upper right arm, right? And my deltoid is back here. I would want this to kind of come up and follow this direction. And then down here, I would want to follow in this kind of a diagonal direction down. Moving your eye around the whole time and then down. Okay, that can all be done with directional petals, right? Because these lines are going to move our eye around this flower. Ignore the stem, ignore the leaves. Those are all going to be subtle in the background. We don't want people to comment on how amazing of a flower stem it is, right? We want them to talk about the flower itself. In order to do that, that's where all of our detail, all of our time, and all of our effort and energy is going to be spent. So, and at that point, I'm actually going to go through and switch back over to this camera. I'm probably going to be jumping off in just a couple of minutes. I've got quite a few things I got to get done for today. Akshay, as always, man, thank you very much for jumping in. Always appreciated. Thank you so much for being a part of this. Greatly appreciate it.
It's so amazing.
Why don't you tell people where you're from and how they can get a hold of you online?
Yes, sir. My name is Akshay Kashyap and I'm from India. And I do mostly black and gray kind of work. But these days, from these classes, I have very much inspired from Jason sir and started doing illustrative work. And sir is always so amazing and always so nice and always helping us out. And best way to reach me out is through my Instagram. My Instagram handle is akshay.tattoos. Yes, sir. Thank you so much for these sessions. And yes, sir.
Excellent. Thank you very much for jumping in today, man. Always appreciate it.
Crazy, sir.
For those of you that are out there that are trying to reach me, let me pull this back up. I'll cut over to this. You can reach me at Philly Inc. on Instagram. You'll see that right over here. You'll see that kind of like dancing around the screen right now. Yep. You can always reach me at Philly Inc. on Instagram. My name is Jason Leeser. I lead the Sunday afternoon drawing groups at 1 p.m. Eastern time every Sunday afternoon. Sometimes I am on location doing convention coverage. That's just kind of the way that things go. Yeah, if anyone ever has any questions or ideas for shows, please, by all means, feel free to reach out to me. I'd be happy to discuss it with you. Otherwise, I hope everyone takes care and has a wonderful day. And I'll see you next week, next Sunday at 1. So
Yes,
thank you
sir.
very much and take care. Cheers.